All right, good morning, people. Once again, breaking down some Bitcoin. Bob here, helping you guys out with that. Let's see what we got here today. Figured, hey, it's a new month. Let's go ahead and start out taking a look at the monthly chart. And, I don't know, it doesn't look amazing, right? Now, this is the Bitcoin USD chart on Coinbase, so might be slightly different than USDT, but the chart itself will look vastly the same. So, biggest thing, well, and just to, I wanted to actually use the BLX, the Brave New Coin Liquid Index, but for some reason that particular chart is not updating correctly here. I'm not sure what happened, but you can see that it just went straight from this in April, and then this is May, and then it doesn't even have a June open yet. So this one's not vastly helpful to us at this point. But let's go ahead and that's why I'm using this one for now, just to kind of go back. But a few different things I've been talking about, and I figure I'll just kind of reiterate. This whole thing right here, when you look at the price action itself, and then when you look at the RSI, it is in a very obvious, well, at least at the moment, a very obvious falling wedge formation. And that's after it came out of a big rounded bottom. So, again, we've got a cup. Now we've got the handle. At some point, this handle breaks out and will move back to the upside. So, just a matter of time in that regard. I'd say looking at the monthly, it seems fairly safe to say that I would call this level here the floor, which is a number we've been talking about as a potential, at least, because this is also probably, I think it's fairly close to where the level of the 200 moving average on the weekly chart is as well. So this is a level that we're going to be looking at consistently as kind of a downside target for now. And then upside target would probably be up to about 40,500 from a monthly standpoint. Although I doubt, again, I've mentioned this a few times, that I doubt highly that in the at least near term, we're probably not going to see anything above 37 and change. But again, the positive of all this that I see when I look at this chart is, again, rounded bottom, cup, handle. Now the only question is, does this handle, right now it's a falling wedge. When falling wedges do not break out, what do they become? Falling channels. Or they potentially round out as well. That would be the more common outcome. So if we think of this and we think, all right, well, this thing eventually will round out again, well, let's kind of compare it to some things we've seen in the past here. And if this is a monthly, I mean, we could be, let's say that it actually compares fairly well to this little setup. Let's just say that this compares fairly well to this right here, because this kind of went into a little bit of a falling wedge as well. And you can see that eventually it just ran out of steam, had to come down and get a jump start. So, that's something we could see here. But that being stated, depending on what this month does, we could bounce right out of here and start this leg and maybe get a few months of upside out of Bitcoin. Just depends, right? I mean, if it comes out here, can't do anything this month, well then it maybe puts in to like just doji garbage candles, then obviously then we're probably a few months before we would see any kind of recovery, which again would be totally logical, because I've mentioned it several times that a lot of times you get lower volume in the summer because traders are taking time off. So feasibility that this does kick out for a little while longer is still there. That being stated, let's go ahead and zoom in on the weekly. And again, same concept. I mean, I draw a line here and I draw a line at the bottom of this RSI here. And all of a sudden, we've still got that falling wedge that came out of the rounded bottom. So even on the weekly, you can still see that this concept holds up. Now, let's compare again this part of it to, say, this part. I honestly don't think that these two sections I don't find nearly as comparable as on the monthly chart. Now, the other thing, and we've talked about this a few times, there is bullish divergence, and And here, this low was higher, so that's fine. But this low came in lower than this low, but you can see here on the MACD histogram, these lows are lower than this. So again, even the MACD histogram suggests that we've got some upside coming to us. But again, let's assume that it does recover. And I think what we'll probably get is maybe this and maybe 2 more candles of upside over the next 2 weeks. And then I think, if I had to guess, I would say that June ends up being it's going to see some recovery, but I think at the end of the month, we probably look back and it's probably fairly flat. And again, only because I don't expect Bitcoin to be able to just fire up out of here and just roast to the upside. I expect Bitcoin to grind up out of here this next week, 2 weeks, whatever it may be, and then kind of cap out here, roll back over, and have to potentially put in a double bottom. Right now, I think I've mentioned this before. I mean, the weekly was just getting to the point of oversold, and I think realistically, that's really all we're seeing right now is an oversold bounce. Now, I could make the argument that in the past, that's not necessarily what has happened when you got down here. Here you got what looked to be an oversold bounce, and then it just kind of kept going, right? Here, same kind of concept. You got an oversold bounce, but this one traded sideways for quite some time. What's the difference between these ones here and this guy here? Well, they're at the same RSI level, but you can see here that the 200 simple has not even come into play yet. And I would be inclined to believe that Bitcoin still needs to touch down here before an extended recovery will take place, which is why, again, I continue to repeat that I think we come up here, roll over, then put in the retest here, and hopefully by the time that happens, this 200 simple moving average has moved up into, say, this range or this range to protect that 24 to 27,000 range that really doesn't have a whole lot of trading volume in it. One positive here is that means people are not necessarily selling it here either. I'm guessing based on what I've read that a lot of this is just stop loss is in here. But again, the bulls will continue to try to defend this level. Now, there are a few additional levels here. I mean, you can already see that we're at a point this week where it needs to, like, if the week ended right here, I would just expect us to roll over now, right? Like, because it's sitting directly underneath overhead resistance from all these candle closes. So if the week ended right now, I'd expect it to roll over. So we definitely want to see some more push to the upside. And ideally, we would close the week on top of this level. And in order to do that, I think we probably still see a move into the 33,000-ish range this week, maybe 34, and then maybe we sell off to this level that we're at right now. But we'll see. Again, I don't make the rules. I just take a look at them and assess how they may play out. Now, here's going to be the big thing right now. And when I zoom in on the shorter term time frames, this will all look a little different. But again, right now, so we got this kind of parabolic style move right here. If we drop the line along here, we're getting close to where Bitcoin would potentially find some support for the next upside, but it's got to hold this level up here. It has to hold, right? If we start to sink back down here, I don't know if this one has it. No, it doesn't. I could go over to one of my other charts, but I mean we basically, if it came back down here and bounced off of that, okay, great. But and maybe that corresponds with the move back down to the 21 simple here, which would be fine. But again, it will have to hold at that point. We cannot continue the downside move. So this is important that Bitcoin really does kind of maintain this level up here over the coming days. Because as we've seen quite a bit in the past, and maybe not as much on the daily chart, but on the 4-hour chart, we were in a position where every time it made some sort of parabolic type of move, and not like strong parabolas, but parabolic formation. So like this came down here, this kind of rounded out after it had kind of a parabolic drop, parabolic back to the upside, and then just to roll over. Well, you can see here, this is forming a bit of a crown as well. So I'm hesitant to just assume that this thing is going to continue to push the upside without coming back down a little. But for now, the 21 simple is holding. And in fact, it is forming a line along here. So there's a good chance that, maybe Bitcoin taps down here at some point. Maybe even today, it's feasible because you can see here on the 4 hour, we're starting to come out of overbought territory. And if the 4 hour doesn't push back up into overbought, so let's say that, I look at this and I kind of see maybe the possibility that we've got a small inverse head and shoulders on the 4 hour. And when I say that, so this would be the left shoulder, this would be the head. So we would want to see the 4 hour come back up here, which means positive price appreciation, probably to just above the 200 simple here, maybe even taps up here, rolls back down to retest the 200, and then bursts off back up into this level of overbought. And I think that would be the move that would get us up above 33,000. Then the question becomes, do we hold that level and can we continue the upside push? Time will tell. But I think that would be the one of the things I would be looking for here. The other scenario, as far as kind of a formation forming here, is kind of a falling channel on the RSI. And you can see here that we're sideways consolidating on Bitcoin. So this has potential to be some hidden bullish divergence. And again, and that's simply because the RSI has fallen to a level that's lower than it necessarily should have. This is a positive thing in an upswing for the simple fact that means that the lower the RSI is, the more likely somebody is going to be to buy it. And if the price action is still staying high, that's a very positive sign. So that's where I would say that this has at least the potential to go ahead and kind of make another push here over the next 2.5 hours to get above the 200 simple this time around, and then retest it for another push to the upside. So I think that, I think just looking at the chart right now, that's ideally what I'm going to be looking for, with the caution that, again, this is kind of forming that typical Bart Simpson kind of crown look that we don't necessarily like. So again, we'll have to monitor that for some upside push here over the next hour or two. And you can see here, I mean, the 200 on the hourly is way down here. So if Bitcoin fails to maintain the support of the 21 and the 50 here, well, then we can start to see a push down to, say, the 80 or the 100. The 200 probably won't come into play in the immediate term. Positive things on the hourly, MACD, Histo, possible flip here. We're above the signal line. So if I look at this right now, stochastic RSI is a buy. This is forming a little uptrend on the hourly RSI. So, I mean, there are more positive things I can see just looking at this briefly. But again, the numbers still, I think, at the end of the day, end up being very similar to what I'm talking about. I don't see us getting to the end of the week and exceeding, say, 35,000, even though I think 33 is probably even a more likely high for the week. And then we just got to come back. If that ends up being the case, we come back, we find support where we were here, and then we can keep moving to the upside. Now, the problem with hidden bullish divergence, as a side note, is that eventually it becomes bearish divergence. So like this level right here, right now, everything is lining up. There's no divergence because the price action and the RSI are at similar levels in comparison to this one. But at some point, let's say that this thing did push up to this level. Well, does the RSI push up to here? Questionable, which gives you a bearish divergence. So, and then you gotta hope you find support here at this like 60 level for another upside push. So we got, there's some positives and negatives I see here. All in all, I mean, you can't be upset with what we've seen over the last few days from Bitcoin. It's just a matter of how much gas does it have left in the tank. Now, looking in on the shorter term time frames here, this move, I mean, it seems like it has some level of sustainability to it, for the simple fact that we had this. So, this was all the move from over the weekend, right? And then here, this was mostly, a little bit of Sunday, but, a good chunk of this was yesterday. we had a breakout of this kind of bull flag, came up, put in this move here, retest, and then it went into this falling wedge. And again, what do we know about falling wedges? Breakout, typically a back test before a go. So, if it plays out in that regard, then same concept. We'll come up here, maybe to this level, or all the way back to this level, roll back down, and that'll get us below the 200, which can be positive or negative. I mean, we would always prefer to see it hold this level. 100 times out of 100. However, sometimes getting that crash pattern is exactly what you need in order to get the upside push. So we'll just be keeping an eye on this to see if it continues to make positive upside swings. And again, whether it be to this level or all the way up to this level again. And then again, I'd love to see it push up over this 32,280. And I do think that 33 and change. And again, you can see that better on this chart. From if we call this level the 1.0 level, which was basically where we fell from, right? Like this was our highest move, this is our lowest move here. This is a 1.618 fib extension. That would be a totally logical target. And then you can see where that also lines up very well with some of the other levels that we've been talking about, where maybe this ends up being pretty close to the high side push out of whatever move we do get here. So we shall see. We shall see. It's again, it's all at least partially speculative. The TA shows you what could happen, and then you just gotta wait to see what actually does happen. But this, I think, again, I was talking about a little falling wedge there that we were breaking out of. You can see if I drew some lines here, it looks like a decent one, and this looks like a back test after a breakout. So again, some positive things that we got going here out of Bitcoin right now, and hopefully that will just continue. With the understanding that there might be some more downside, I don't know that we're necessarily in the business right now of, and again, not necessarily, like I said, probably for the next 2 weeks we'll see some more upside. Do I think that we're in total accumulation mode? Probably not. And again, just because there probably is still that one downside target that Bitcoin will hit around 22. But I think that is a good opportunity for us to see some positive moves and get some positive gains out here. So that's what we're going to try to do. Get back to it. Looking for, like I said, probably looking for a couple of green weeks here out of Bitcoin. Probably followed up by a couple of red weeks to close out the month. And so potentially a pretty flat month overall, but with some positive upside action. And I do expect it, again, kind of looking back at this chart, this is a weekly, like, I think it's much more likely Bitcoin ends the week where it comes down, maybe it ends just below here, which gives it a good opportunity to find support at this level or this level for the next push. But Bitcoin should make relative short work out of these candles, because anytime you get parabolic downside moves, you tend to get a recovery that is commensurate with that. So again, we should be looking for recovery over the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks back up to this level, potentially even here. And then I still expect kind of roll back and kind of come back down and retest some either this same level or lower one, or maybe we're lucky and we actually come right out of here, pop up, get a retest at a higher level, and then bang. But hey, either way, should be some good opportunities here over the next few weeks. Looking forward to getting those opportunities and putting them on the board. Hey, we appreciate you guys as always, and we'll catch up soon.